The scripture this morning for the service is from Matthew's Gospel, the chapter 28. The verses indicated in your bulletin, you probably have the entire reading in front of you. Let us hear that now.
Now the 11 disciples went to Galilee, to the mountain where Jesus told them to go. When they saw him, they worshipped him, but some doubted.
Let us pray. Merciful God, bless this, our time and our worship. Amen. Now, for the purposes of this sermon, and I'm going to have Sherry read the rest of it in a minute. For the purposes of this sermon today, I ask you to allow me to build a little on the sermon Aaron gave last Sunday. You recall the sermon last Sunday? Anybody? If you do, good on you. It was Pentecost Sunday last Sunday, and Aaron talked about how Jesus calls us and the church and all of Jesus' followers to a life of service and shared sacrifice. Remember that line? I think he said it about 4 times. And it was getting better every time. Service and shared sacrifice. He said this life of using those elements would deepen our love and give us joy. Anybody remember it now? There you go. There you go. Well, that's where I want to start this morning, because I definitely want you to be able to tell him next Sunday that it was about that long, and it was about love, sharing, deepening and sharing love and giving us joy. That's what I want to do. I want to look at this passage and study it with you just a second or two to help us remember our chore. Our chore. That doesn't sound like anything fun, does it? Anybody here think of getting up in the morning and going through the day till you go back to bed as a chore? I have a day before me. I think it must be a chore. Please don't do that. We get up in the morning. We get up in the morning. Somebody told me just a little while ago, I'm glad to be upright. What's the other option, right? I'm glad that you're upright too, and I'm glad that I'm upright, and I don't look at the day as an endless list of chores and toils. My goodness, how could we get excited about living that way? Look at the passage. The disciples, they went to Galilee, to the mountain where Jesus told them to go. When he saw them, when they saw him, they worshiped him. But some doubted. That was what you read, right?
Yes, it was.
That was what it was. And I want to talk about joy and love and sharing, and I want to talk about all of those things, but I can't get past the end of that. They went to Galilee, to the mountain where he told them, and they saw him and they worshiped him. Yay! Jesus is risen. Anybody remember that message from a couple of weeks, 3 weeks back, 4 weeks back, a while ago? Somebody say it. He is risen. Yeah, he is risen indeed. And the disciples saw him in Galilee at the mountain, and they worshiped but some doubted. Now, I doubted. Have you ever doubted? Anybody here ever doubted? Look what happened. Look what happened. Jesus died. Remember? They put him in a tomb. They went to the tomb and he wasn't there. He appeared to Mary and to Cleophas and Simon Peter. And then he appeared in Galilee to all the disciples. But some doubted. I haven't ever in my life once experienced anything as glorious as Matthew 28:16. They went to Galilee, they found him, they saw him, they worshiped him. That was it. That's high, glorious time. And we could just stay there, but some doubted. And I believe it to you this way. The disciples sound a lot like us. Oh, they're willing. They're willing to even to go to Galilee, even to go to the mountain, willing, but struggling. Willing, but unsure. And where Aaron ended last Sunday is where we start then. What do we do after sacrifice? After we've made the sacrifice. We carried a life of sacrifice. We've gone to where we're supposed to be. We've seen the Messiah. We've worshiped the Lord. What do we do after that? What do we do after that? Well, some doubt. And some say, oh, it wasn't worth all it was cracked up to be in the first place. Does that sound like some of us? Sounds like me. I saw the Royals. Did anybody see the Royals night before last? Anybody? Or was it just yesterday? What did we win yesterday? 12 to 4? 12 to 5? That was pretty high and mighty times for baseball fans, especially Royals fans, especially this year, right? And then they won. And for some it was glorious. For others, they doubted. I don't know what will happen today. God raised him from the dead, showed him to them, and they were willing, but struggling and unsure. In the midst of all of that, uncertainty, doubt, Jesus loved the disciples and loves us. Go ahead and read the second passage.
Jesus came near and spoke to them. I've received all authority in heaven and on earth. Therefore, go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to obey everything that I've commanded you.
They hear Jesus tell them in love, I have received all authority in heaven and on earth. Therefore, go and make disciples, baptizing them and teaching them to obey the commandments. Do everything I commanded you. No confusion anymore. No doubts anymore. They've been told But the disciples and us and the church, for all of its history, the confusion may have been given an answer, but the uncertainty remains. We're willing, Jesus, but what do we do now? What do we do? How do we do what you just told us to do? How do we go and make disciples? How do we baptize them, teach them? How do we teach? All of these things have doubts attached to them. Would we be any different than they were on that day in Galilee? Go ahead and read the good part, the best part.
Look, I myself will be with you every day until the end of this present age.
That ought to be written on the back of my hand. You too? Would you like to need to know that more often than you do? Would it help you if you knew that more often than you do? Would it help with everything you're uncertain about? Yes, Bruce. Bruce says it would be helpful to have that, to teach that. I've got, three more pages here that talk about how it is. What do we do? Jesus didn't get detailed, did he? Go do these things, and I will be with you every day. I'll start it out, tell it to you this way. The first thing you're going to do when you try to do what Jesus told the disciples and us to do, you're going to fail, right? Because you're uncertain, you're unsure, you're just like I am up here. Anxious, afraid. What does he say? Try. Try. Look is the first word of the great promise he tells us. Look. See each other. Look. Observe. You know, I probably spend way too much time on Facebook. You might too. But I tell you one thing that it does for me is it reminds me of your faces. When I see your faces through the week, it makes me smile. Hayden, you have a dog. You have a couple dogs, but you have one that's especially near dear to me because he's a boy dog, a girl dog. Well, see, I'm not as good at this as I thought. But a corgi dog, and I've had 2 corgi dogs. They break your heart. They love you, they're stubborn, but they break your heart. But I want to see yours and hug his neck and say, because mine died last December. You know, there's been 7 or 8 people in this room who told me they were sorry when they heard that my dog died. I didn't tell anybody anything. I was going to be the guy in the suit, you know, the guy with the tie. I'm together. It's all good in my life. Everything is wonderful. Although none of it really is. My dog died. All that is required for us to discover each other's lives and each other's hiddenness and each other's hurts is for us to look and try. And I'll borrow this one from my grandmother. She said in a sermon that she liked so much, she preached it to all of her grandkids regularly. She said, if you will just listen, you'll learn a lot. And then, of course, came the sermon about all the things she wanted us to hear. Anybody had that happen? Oh, yeah. So I borrow that one because whenever I talk about look, I also want to talk about listen. And that brings me back to my grandmother. But look, listen, try to love others. Maybe not all of them, but maybe a few. And when you fail at loving one or another, what do we have to fall back on? Somebody remember? I myself will be with you every day. So you retreat to your comfortable chair in the corner. You feel bad for a little while, and then you remember Jesus is going, Bruce, so you failed. So what? Get out of that chair, go and try again. I didn't say in Matthew 28 that you should sacrifice and share only when it's convenient, or only for the people you already like, or only for the causes that excite you, or where your friends are. There are people out there with needs. And Jesus needs a connection with them, and we are it. Now, that wasn't funny, was it? We are it. And the way Jesus connects with people is when we fail, not when we succeed. About 35 years ago, I was a new minister in a new town to me and in a new church situation. And one of the wonderful women in that congregation came and told me, she said, Pastor, I've got to tell you, there's a need. I got to go. I can't stay back here. I'm sorry. There's a family in the community with a need, and you need to go and see them. You know what? Everything that came out of my 28-year-old mouth was useless. Everything that came out of my 28 I found my place. The living Spirit of Jesus is with us every day. It's that Spirit that calls us to live differently, to be church. And now to support our being church, will our ushers please receive our offering as we hear a little blues with Jesus Gonna Be Here Soon by the Blind Boys of Alabama. This is one of my favorite songs in the whole world.